Good afternoon, everybody. This is Casey O'Brien, the Executive Director and Principal Investigator of the National CyberWatch Center, and I want to welcome you all to this month's installation of our webcast series, now going on its 5th year. And our topic today is cybersecurity across the curricula. Just a few items, business related, if you will, to make sure we have a smooth run-in webcast, and that is be sure to mute your phone/microphones when not talking. You can do that either on your phone if you're dialed in. If you're using the Zoom web interface, you can click the picture of the microphone next to your name in the participant list. If you have any questions during the webcast, you should go ahead and post those in the chat feature in Zoom, and I'll be watching those while our presenter presents. He said he welcomes questions throughout, so we don't have to wait till the very end for a Q&A period. We are recording the webcast, and we do make these available via the National CyberWatch Center YouTube channel, as well as via the webcast link on our website. That's nationalcyberwatch.org. And I believe that's it in terms of the business. So just a quick couple slides before I turn it over to our guest, to our guest speaker. And this, as I mentioned, is the 5th year of the webcast series. They're the last Thursday of each month. They're an hour long. We have great topics. We record them. We make them available. All of you signed up for this through our event management system, and you'll get a follow-up email with a link to this recorded presentation. It's going to be a great one. So, Cybersecurity Across the Curricula, produced today. I'm the moderator, Casey O'Brien, and I want to turn it over to our presenter, Dr. Debasis Bhattacharya from the University of Hawaii, Maui College. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah, that's the weather here. It's generally 75 all year round, but I guess I just wanted to start off on a somewhat light note. How many of you have a CAE or CAE2Y designation? Can you raise your hand? I think there's like 51 participants. Just to get a feel for the audience. So I see Stephen, Aristophanes. So I'm assuming most of you do not have a CAE or CAE2Y designation. Is that more or less correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just getting a feel for of how to present. Okay, so a little bit of introduction. Actually, next slide. If you want, I can take over, Casey, on the, or I can just tell you to go next slide. It's up to you.
Go ahead. You should be able. Let me make you a co-host. And you should be able to share your screen now, and you can run the slides if you'd like.
Okay, let's see. Actually, just put your slides back, and I'll. Yeah. So a little bit of background. I'm a faculty member here at the University of Hawaii, and I've been here for 10 years or so. My focus is cybersecurity, IT, and related technologies. I've been on this topic of teaching cybersecurity across disciplines for about 3 or 4 years with some degree of intensity, because our college is a small college, and it's more out of necessity than anything else. So the agenda for this talk is a little bit of background of where I come from, a little bit about what this topic of cybersecurity across disciplines is, and then some specific examples on how to actually do it. Because I'm assuming that a lot of you are here just because, not out of casual interest, but you want to actually teach cybersecurity across disciplines. So what I figured I would do is I would tell you, give you some examples of how I actually implemented this in our college. And then as Casey said, I'm very open to questions and suggestions from the audience as we go along. I do have my chat window open here, and so I can respond as I need to, or maybe Casey can as well. So the agenda is there, and let's proceed. So next slide. So our college, I'm not going to read all the slides. There's a lot of content. You can read that yourself. It's a university, technically speaking, as we have 3 baccalaureate degrees, but in reality, it's a community college that gives that 90% of our students get associate degrees. We pretty much serve our small island community of Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, and we have about 160 resident population with about 2 times the number of tourists at any time than residents. We have a small number of students, which is 2,600 relative to other community colleges, and we have the usual associate degrees. So a lot of this talk is actually focused on cybersecurity across the curricula for at the lower division or at the associate degree level. Okay, I hope that's okay. Like a lot of community colleges, we have a lot of women students, and our median age is about 25 or so. So it's what most people would call non-traditional students. Okay, next slide, Casey. So we recently received our CAE and CDE. Stephen Miller, Stephen, are you there? Actually, I'll just wait, Stephen. Stephen and a lot of other folks helped out in this process, but
Yeah.
we
I'm here.
The CAE program required us and to go through the process of demonstrating that we had cybersecurity across the curriculum, but it was something that we had been doing for a while, so it was really not that hard to demonstrate it. And I'll pretty much go through the process that we went through. Our BAS in Applied Business and Technology is a hybrid degree of technology and business courses. And within the technology courses, we have the usual lineup of cybersecurity classes like I've listed over here. Okay, nothing extraordinary. This is pretty much the standard set of classes that we use to map the KUs to the CAE. Okay. Okay, next slide, Casey. Okay, so the way I approach cybersecurity across the disciplines is cybersecurity is an interdisciplinary topic. I feel it's not necessarily technical in nature, though obviously it initially appears that way. It is a topic that can be embedded into many disciplines, and many disciplines actually teach cybersecurity without even knowing that they're teaching cybersecurity or certain aspects of it. So I've always felt that if you looked hard enough, you'll find certain security or cybersecurity issues that are being taught or are not being taught in many disciplines across your colleges. Okay, and then it cuts across many different types of students with many different backgrounds and industries. So when we talk about courses like Security Plus or Network Plus, we are implying, certain types of students with certain prerequisites and backgrounds. And I think that's one track of cybersecurity education, but cybersecurity across disciplines doesn't imply that students have to enroll in a Security Plus class, or they may not even make the prerequisites for it, okay? So the next slide, Casey, shows the fact that a lot of our students, and you can all probably relate to this, I'm not exactly sure the backgrounds of the audience. We have 59 participants here. But if you look at this list, this diversity and spread of a distribution of background is what a typical non-traditional student population is. We have, like I said, 60 more women than men. In our college, we have a lot of minorities. We have veterans, working professionals. A lot of our students work at least 3 days a week. We have high school students doing early admit or early start. We have remote students who rely totally on distance education. They don't come into our campus at all. Some do, some don't. Most of our students are on some form of financial aid. Many have not met math, science proficiency levels for advanced topics like cryptography and things like that. And a lot of them are non-technical or claim to be so. And there are many students who are not interested in cybersecurity as a career. Oftentimes, there are no obvious jobs that they can get. And for many reasons, a lot of our students like cybersecurity, but don't see cybersecurity as a career. Okay. I'm assuming that this is a very common, or some of these elements are very common across community colleges across the country. And if not, let me know. Let me pause here a little bit to see if there's any questions or comments. You guys can type on chat if you need to, and Casey, you can ask any questions or if you need to. So this is just a warm up.
Will do.
Am I going at the right pace or going too fast?
Nope. Perfect.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is a very typical mix, and the reason for presenting these slides is to show that when you teach cybersecurity across the disciplines, you have to be prepared to deal with students who come from a different a variety of backgrounds, and this is not your typical profile of the students who would, let's say, take ethical hacking or something like that. And so I think it's important for as educators to realize that you are going to interact with students who have different interests and different backgrounds and different kind of orientations towards the field that we take for granted and the field that we know well. Yes, so Evelyn, that is true. I'm reading some of the comments in the chat, and it's good if you guys post some comments, is that a lot of students are indeed interested in entry-level jobs. And so they focus on a major or a degree based on the preponderance of entry-level jobs in their local area. And so in our area, there is not that many entry-level jobs that are obvious to students. So that may be one of the reasons why we have a low pool of students for this area, and that may or may not be the same elsewhere. Okay. Okay, next slide, Casey.
And just a quick follow-up to that. This is Casey O'Brien. I will
Yes.
post a link to some degree and certificate programs that we created through our curriculum standards panels. These go back, years, and they've been updated frequently. And part of the degrees and certificates show you how you can offer a 2-year degree or 4-year, or take courses. I know there's some folks that teach at the high school level, and specifically the degrees and certificates, we've mapped them with the help of our curriculum standards panels to jobs that students coming out of primarily 2-year programs can get. And there are many entry-level jobs. I think the challenge is folks don't know where to go to see where our entry-level jobs. So while you're doing your presentation, I'll post a link where folks with some instructions where folks can go see some of those jobs.
Right, and that would be very helpful. I guess I should just put a caveat here that a lot of our students don't want to relocate for whatever reason they may have. It may be personal, family, or many reasons. So they theoretically know where the entry-level jobs are, but for whatever reason they are not interested in relocation. So again, that is a self-imposed limitation, right? Or a limitation based on circumstances or economic and social reasons. But in any event, it is a valid reason, and I can't tell somebody here in Hawaii that you should relocate to Maryland or Virginia for an entry-level job. So again, different parts of the country have different opportunities. Is really what I'm trying to say. And I think, Casey, it's good to have a list of opportunities across the country, because there are indeed a lot of students who take any opportunity or that would make sense for them. So I'm seeing a lot of chat messages, and that's good. I think I'd like to make this as interactive as possible, so that we can get some feedback as I present this. Okay, so Casey, you're monitoring the chat, I think, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, so please respond as I. Okay, so there's an overall approach to this that I'd like to list, and I'd like to talk through the slide because I know you can read it faster than I can talk through this. But the overall idea is to first of all not assume that every faculty member that is going to jump and be interested in cybersecurity. That you have to work to make faculty, your peers, interested. And just because I like cybersecurity doesn't mean everybody else is going to like it equally enough to actually teach cybersecurity in their classes. So my overall approach, which I've kind of tried to tune over the years, was first of all, make sure you have administrative support, which is kind of a given. But more importantly, have some kind of a workshop or some session, and this can be done in many different ways. I prefer like a 4-hour or 8-hour workshop where I can go through quite a lot of core topics. And this is typically after our duty period ends, which is in May, so that people can actually come in on a Wednesday. And if you have stipends, that helps. If not, you give whatever lunch or free food or whatever incentive to draw in at least 20 or so faculty from 5 or 6 disciplines, or how many disciplines as you can, into one room and teach them basic stuff like security hygiene, passwords, all your topics that are the fundamentals of security. Okay, it could be social engineering. It could be a lot of things, and this is really to just get a foundational level of interest and knowledge among a broad set of faculty members. I've done this every year for the past 4 years, and I've got about 25 or so faculty members in one room for a day, and even half a day would be fine. And so what I do is I try to change the topic. So 4 years ago it was malware. A few years ago it was cryptocurrencies. I try to change the theme of the topic. So there are some foundational content, and there is some exciting stuff, things that you're reading on TV or during the Super Bowl ads or something like that. And the whole idea is you get faculty members interested in your field. Then, well, that's just interest, right? The follow-up activities is to actually kind of ask them nicely to see if you can give a guest lecture in a certain class, or in a certain class on a certain day in the following semester. Okay, and so that's like your foot in the door, and that is really not that easy as it sounds. A lot of faculties are very set in their ways. They have a set syllabus, set calendar, and set everything, and so it was a little hard for me to actually give that guest lecture. But again, there are techniques to negotiation and things like that. Okay, so what I would do is I would target about 5 disciplines and about 5 opportunities or 5 times where you could give a guest lecture in a classroom in the fall. So let's say if you have the workshop in May, you target the fall semester as an opportunity for guest lectures. Okay, the overall goal of this is to not create a new cybersecurity class, let's say in accounting. It's to actually embed a module for a week or 2, depending on how much room you have, into an existing class. Okay, that's the key. And then help the faculty member who's actually teaching the class to actually co-teach it or teach it on their own. So let me stop here. Does that make sense for everybody? Casey, I saw a few chat comments. I'm not sure how to handle that. But.
Yeah, so I mean, some are maybe a bit off topic. So
okay. Okay, so we'll keep.
Yeah, we'll keep going. I'll be sure to monitor them. Okay.
Okay, so the overall approach is to try to embed cybersecurity assignments, and this is again a starting point. I'm not saying that you can't try to create a specialized course or topics class or a specialized class in a specific discipline. I'm just saying the entry point is to embed modules or embed topics within 1 or 2 weeks in existing classes. And what I'm going to show you is a few examples so that you can take this to your own university. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to just run through these CAE 2Y and CAE or 4Y requirements. Stephen and others, you can check me if this is any typos or incorrect. This is the latest requirements. And again, I asked this question as to if any of you are CAE or planning on it, but let me just say that this is one requirement and kind of puts in writing what cybersecurity across the disciplines is. So if you read this, you'll get an idea on what the NSA requires candidate organizations who want to apply for CAE 2Y to do. To demonstrate that they're teaching cybersecurity across disciplines, okay? Now, this is just a guideline. This is if you want to apply. Now, I know a lot of you may not apply to CAE, but so take this as just a way to demonstrate that you've done this. This is not the only way to actually do cybersecurity across the disciplines, okay? So the basic idea is you need to have a syllabus in a certain course that actually has a cybersecurity topic. Now, it doesn't have to be for many weeks. I mean, in my case, it was just 1 week, and it could be as long as you want. But I think a minimum time frame is about a week, and it includes one topic. Okay, so in this requirement, there are 2 parts. So 5A is essentially to demonstrate that you have a syllabus and that you've actually taught cybersecurity in that class. And then finally, I highlight it doesn't have to be technical. In fact, it's most likely not non-technical. Okay, and based on the point system, as you can see from there, you pretty much have to target 5 separate disciplines or 5 separate programs that are not part of your original list of KUs. So let's just say let's say my program, which is a Bachelor of Applied Science and Applied Business Technology, has a bunch of courses that I mapped. I have to have different programs and different courses for this requirement. Okay, so I have to go into accounting, or I have to go into hospitality. I have to go to different programs that was not part of my original program. I mean, the whole idea is, you can't do double dipping, right? You got to have a different program. So that's 5A. Casey, the next slide, 5B, shows what exactly are you going to do to assess that students actually did something and demonstrated something. So there are many ways to demonstrate that you actually taught cybersecurity and assessed it. And this could be papers, projects, posters, questions, test questions, et cetera, et cetera. And there were some examples. So this is the NSA's criteria for curriculum, and I just use this as a guideline. I'm not saying that everybody has to follow exactly these things, but the general idea that I have behind this is that if you're going to teach cybersecurity across the disciplines, you've got to make cybersecurity an interesting topic. Otherwise it's almost like forcing something down students who may not be interested. The whole idea is to get them interested, right? So I have a slightly different approach to this, but I did meet the requirements for the CIE anyway. But this is just for your reference. Okay, so yeah, okay, let's keep going. Karen, thanks for the note. I'll refer to students as I go along as well. So what I did was I have as far as disciplines, this is just my choice of disciplines that I picked. And it's by no means a list that that all of you need to conform to. I mean, this is just the programs that I targeted based on our college and our student population. So accounting, administration of justice or criminal justice, electronics, hospitality and tourism, and nursing were the 5 places or 5 programs that I targeted for cybersecurity topics. Okay. So I guess let me pause here and say, let me ask a question to the audience: are any of you teaching any of these fields, or are you focused on core networking and cybersecurity? So maybe a show of hands or comments. Okay. So I would assume that a lot of students here or a lot of participants here in this chat are either teachers or students or faculty members, and are not teaching these classes, right? I mean, I would be surprised if a criminal justice faculty member right here, but it's possible. So the first thing is, and same with me, I don't teach accounting classes. I mean, I don't have the qualifications to teach it. So when I target a course or a syllabus or an approach to this, I first of all have to establish some kind of a relationship with the faculty members who are teaching these classes, right? I mean, the accounting, the person teaching accounting 124 or AJ 221. So that is a very critical aspect of this approach. And this relates to my previous slide where I said that we needed a workshop where we needed a way to first introduce this whole idea of cybersecurity before you can actually go and target a class. Okay, so Aristophanes, that's good comments. So some of the participants here are teaching in these disciplines, and that's actually very good. And I think that's a very important feedback that I'd like all of us to have, is that you need to have some level of relationships or working relationships with faculty members in these disciplines to actually have some inroads into any of these in these classes. So it took me a while for me to actually target these courses, and then actually have the faculty member let me insert a module on cybersecurity in these classes. Let me pause a little bit here, Casey.
Yeah, sure. So, Mark, I think the answer to your question is yes. Right, you know, HIPAA certainly is talked about in your nursing program, but you'll see some other examples of how perhaps you may provide some other topics. I have a question, which is why did you choose these target disciplines / courses?
To a great extent, they self-selected themselves. So when you have a workshop and you solicit interest from your faculty members, some are more interested, some are less interested. Some of these topics kind of conform to cybersecurity better than others, but it's a combination of faculty interest and suitability of the topic. Okay, so for example, administration of justice, criminal law it's very easy to embed. There are cybersecurity topics that actually fit into an existing class, and maybe not so in hospitality, but so it's a combination of interest of the faculty member willing to work with you and the nature of the course or the top of the discipline itself.
Thank you.
So as Stephen is saying, criminal justice covers all sorts of cybersecurity topics, and that is true. And this was just this list is by no means a master list or the preferred list. This is just a list that was based that I derived based on our college circumstances and situations. I mean, I would be curious I would ask the participants to see if there was any any other program in their mix or their organization that was, that would be, is there anything else that would be a fit for cybersecurity that is not on this list, that is a very common program?
So Mark Hufey said secure programming in a computer science program would work. Criminal justice in a developmental math class where they're talking about exponents and bases. You could be a perfect opportunity to introduce a module around password strength, so if you have an eight character password where you use all lowercase letters, right? The base is the number 8, the exponent is 26, and then they could compute all the possible 8 character password combinations using lowercase letters. If you add uppercase letters, the exponent changes to 52, and then, right, that's a larger character set, and then you could get into you could continue with that thread, right? Add numbers now, so now your exponent goes to 62, add special characters, you're up to 72, so that's the total character space for 8 character passwords, uppercase, lowercase numbers, special characters, and then you could talk about password strength, and right, this is something almost everybody can relate to. And then effective practices, essentially with cloud computing resources, even now 9 character passwords with uppercase, lowercase, special characters and numbers. The special characters defined as those above the number keys can be cracked for about less than $100 in about 4 or 5 hours, right? So that'd be a real targeted example. Char says she's working with the university in the UK where psychology and cybersecurity are co-located to examine online trust relationships, business management, ethics, so a whole bunch. Great.
That's right. So business psychology, and in the trades, a lot of us have vocational trades programs. The automotive program is definitely a place where you can also embed cybersecurity modules, especially if you're talking of the latest, cars, and other things. So again, I think if you look around your own university, you will find a lot of opportunities that are above and beyond this list. This is just a list that I've made for my thing, but I have a couple of recommendations. One is to keep it small and manageable, and 2 is realize that it is as important to have a relationship with the faculty members, because in the end they are the ones who are going to actually teach the cybersecurity, the cybersecurity content within their classes. Okay. So I, at least for my limitations based on time and resources, allowed me to just span across these 5 disciplines. And while I may have other disciplines, I just cannot handle any more than that. Okay. So it's important to realize that it is as important for you to realize how much you can stretch with faculty members and your colleagues. And not just assume that just because there is an appropriate content on the internet that it will be actually effectively taught in the classroom. Okay, next slide. There's a lot of content that is what I call foundational, and this is just one example of it. Many of you probably know this website. But this was actually a project where there was a lot of content that was done on cybersecurity classes, and I don't know, Casey, if you know this about this C5 project, but I listed this because I used a lot of this content for basic slides and curriculum content that was embedded in many different classes. Okay, so I would recommend participants who are interested in following up to check this out for some of the basics, basic cybersecurity content. Okay, but foundational content is one thing. What you have to do after this is actually go in and kind of localize it or make it focused on a specific discipline, right? So, Casey, you want to go to the next one? So what I'm going to step through is an approach in how to customize cybersecurity content in a specific discipline. Now, again, I'm not recommending that all of you do exactly this, but just use this as an approach, okay? And again, this approach could be used in psychology. This could be in math, like as Casey was saying, or computer science. But the approach is as important as opposed to exactly what is on the slide. So in accounting, there are many entry-level courses in accounting that teach people the basics of accounting, and if you look for topics that involve data security or security of information, the topic of cost controls is in every introductory accounting course. Okay, so what I had to do was I had to work with the faculty member who didn't know about cryptocurrencies and how cryptocurrencies were accepted or actually managed in accounting, to embed the topic of cryptocurrency management in the cost controls section of the course. Okay, and this involved creating some custom content, doing some research myself, working with a faculty member, actually teaching the class as a lecturer, and then assessing the students with either a case study or an exam. Okay, to make it fun, we actually, and so obviously the students didn't know anything about cryptocurrencies. So the idea was to engage them in this new field, teach them something about it without getting them overwhelmed with the intricacies, the technical intricacies of it, but keep it relevant to this class, which is really about accounting. It was not about cybersecurity per se, but you introduce the topic of cryptocurrencies from an accounting perspective, and then demonstrate the risks involved when dealing with them. Okay, and so the whole idea was to make the topic of cryptocurrencies embedded into this course, but also to raise the level of interest in cybersecurity to accounting students who actually had no other background in this field. Okay, so this is one approach, and it took a couple of semesters to make this work. It didn't really work the first time. So I would recommend like a course that is often taught, that is taught repeatedly and has a lot of students, to give you some background. Okay. So so accounting was one obvious case.
What was it about that course that it didn't work so well? Just the fact that it wasn't offered frequently and didn't have a large number of students?
No, I guess I didn't say this correctly. I would say that it takes a little bit of time for the faculty member to actually come up to speed themselves with the content. And so the first semester, I taught the cryptocurrency section, and then the next semester, the faculty member themselves taught the topic. So it helps if this is a popular course and this is something that the faculty member is willing to do on their own.
Great, thank you.
Criminal justice, as Stephen and others have said, is actually a place where lots of topics can be taught. And again, I just picked one class mostly because of my capacity to teach this. Again, realize that in theory, cybersecurity can be taught across a lot of programs and a lot of classes. But do you really have the time to do this yourself, or how much can you actually practically do, right, given that you have other things to teach yourself? So what I did was I picked one class, criminal law, and I picked the issue of theft, which is a topic which is very common in criminal justice, as you might imagine. And then so you focus on the issue of digital theft and digital content, okay, which most of us who do cybersecurity know pretty well because we teach them Security Plus and things like that. But the context of this is now in the criminal justice. So you have to realize you have to do a little bit of research yourself into the legal issues of stealing digital content. and the chain of custody and all sorts of other issues on how you can prosecute somebody. So when I created a module for this topic, I had to think of criminal law as much as the actual intricacies of stealing digital content. Okay, so there's a different approach when you create a module for another discipline as opposed to when you're teaching a module in the security arena. The idea being that the students are going through an entire semester of criminal law, right? And then you come in and you embed this module on stealing digital content. It has to have a flow from what they've been learning before and what they're going to learn after your session. Okay, and that's the difference. So when I had to prepare for this class, I had to learn a lot more about the procedures, the legal matters that involves the theft of digital assets, or any assets for that matter. Okay, so it does require a little twist in thinking from our normal process in which we create this content. It's not just a plug and play. You can't just take a module from, let's say, your typical cybersecurity program and embed it and expect it to work. And of course, the background of these students are also not exactly what a lot of us have in our classrooms. Okay, next slide. Electronics, is again a fairly common topic. IoT devices. I think a lot of you, if you look around your campus, you'll probably have some electronics associate degree or BAS degree. I wanted to make this a fun topic, so there are oftentimes when you try to embed a new topic like cybersecurity, you don't want to make it dry and boring. So you want to make it a little interesting, a little exciting for the students. So I picked this topic of wearables and security issues just so that students who actually use them on a day-to-day basis would be a little more interested in security issues of these devices, since they use them on a daily basis. So what students actually did was they did some research into security issues about the common wearables that people wear, Apple Watch or Fitbits or whatever personal wearables, and their assignment was to see what vulnerabilities there were or what vulnerabilities were in these devices. Okay, and again, this is at a somewhat introductory level. So you're not getting into issues of the protocol and deficiencies in the protocol, but more into where does the data reside, how does the data go from, let's say, my wrist to a cloud, and things like that, and how it can be compromised in the process. All right. The idea here is something like IoT is a very common topic, right? It's just that the security of these devices may or may not be taught in your existing curriculum. So what you're really doing is embellishing an existing topic in electronics course with security issues. And again, this is an entry point. I'm not saying you can't do more. There's a lot more that can be done. This is just a way of getting students interested in this field. Okay, and the more engaging and the more fun the assignment, the more the interest level of the students to do more. And if there is more interest or more pending interest, of course you can create more modules or you can do more. But you got to get started. You got to get started somewhere. Good feedback from the participants, Aristophanes, Stephen. Thank you. So please keep it coming. I am reading that as I am going through the slide. Okay, next slide, Casey. We have about 16 minutes left, so I want to pace myself. So as you might imagine, we have the one main industry on our island, and I'm not sure that the hospitality and tourism industry extends everywhere. But our students here are associate degree students, and they have very little knowledge of math and science and technology. So again, the idea was to introduce stuff a topic like digital keys, which you see in Hilton apps and things like that, without going into the APK or the code behind digital keys. Okay, this class is a front office customer skills class, right? This is a very fundamental class, and we all know that one of the options is to get a digital key when we check into a hotel. Some hotels like Hilton and things like that. So the idea was to talk about the security aspects of a digital key, which is basically an app that sends out a signal to your door. And so students actually researched what a digital key is, why it's prevalent, how it's actually used, and then some security issues of it. Of course, there are some security issues to anything, but these are students essentially who would not have bothered to learn about any digital any cybersecurity topic were it not for this topic in this program. None of this stuff is in the hospitality textbook. And that's very important, right? You're creating content that is completely new, but at the same time, it's actually being used in the hotels right now. So I felt that this was one way that students who are in a program like hospitality do at least be aware of cybersecurity, social engineering, and a lot of these topics that are not specifically taught in the program, but are obviously very important to their industry. Okay, so it fit well for our local environment. And again, many of you may or may not have this in your thing, but as you can see, what I tried to do was embed a topic that was hopefully engaging to the students who otherwise would not have had a chance to learn about it. Okay, next slide. Okay. So a lot of you have healthcare programs. In fact, when I was reading the thing, healthcare is obviously a very, again, like criminal justice and accounting and so nursing and healthcare is there are many ways to approach this program, and for me, yes, it was the patient confidentiality, HIPAA regulations and things like that. These are obvious, but these are somewhat boring and dry topics. I found that if you just go and tell somebody, they either know this already, because a lot of HIPAA regulations is actually already taught. Health informatics is a field that has been around for many years, and so a lot of privacy and confidentiality issues are actually taught in nursing already. So what are you going to do that's different? So what we tried to do was we tried to actually introduce this notion of security hygiene or the fundamentals of security, and then what I had the program do was try to do a field study of small medical practices, and our island being so small, we mostly have very small practices, and go out and see what exactly did they do or did they not do in terms of security hygiene. This is not just passwords; it's many different things. But this actually gave the students a flavor for actually how cybersecurity was practiced or not practiced in their environment. This is a little different than just telling them what HIPAA rules are, or how it should be done, right? I mean, this is actually making students go and assess on how things are done. And so, yeah, hospital ransomware, as Andrew was mentioning, was a big deal a couple of years ago, and we all know about this, hacking of medical devices. So as cybersecurity professionals, we always like when these things happen, because it gives us some food for thought and some. But for a nursing student, right, for them to just know what is done in a small medical practice in terms of practices and policies and education and learning is an eye-opening for them. And hopefully, when they graduate, they will do something different, or they will do something better. I didn't get in too much into a malware or analysis of the malware, because that would be just a little irrelevant or unnecessary for students who are in this class, right? So my approach to this field is actually a hands-on project where they would actually go and study cybersecurity practices around them. It could be a hospital. It could be a small medical practice, whatever makes sense. Let's go on, Casey. We have 10 minutes. I want to make sure I follow up. There are lots of challenges, like anything. I'm not going to read this thing, but for me, in retrospect, if I just think about it, there was initial headwinds that I had to overcome, largely because faculty are often set in their ways. They rely on textbooks or a set of approach. It takes a little bit of time to show interest and to show the value. And then finally, it does take a little bit of effort to actually teach cybersecurity in the context of the discipline. And I think that's the most important thing, is to show the value in the context of where you are. For example, a nursing professional, for them, cybersecurity is just a means to be a better nurse. And that's really why they're interested in cybersecurity, just as they're interested in any other skill. And I think when they see the value of that, they are interested in cybersecurity just as they are interested in any other topic. And I think, and yes, law and many other fields but that's a challenge that can be overcome. But it requires a little bit of patience and a little bit of and a lot of work in terms of relationships with people. Okay, and there is no end to this. It's an ongoing process. So I'm continuously doing this, and you know I haven't stopped. It took me a while to get started, but I see this as an ongoing process. Okay, let's next slide. There's a lot of benefits, in my opinion. And it's not that all these students that I've taught are going to become cybersecurity students, and we're going to have an overwhelming number of students in our Security Plus class. I think the thing is, students are going to be more knowledgeable about how cybersecurity actually works or doesn't work in their own field, and they're going to look for knowledge or specific skills to enhance their education further based on their current situation, right? So we for example have had more interest across disciplines in an introductory course in cybersecurity after this work. But we don't expect students to get our certificate in cybersecurity. I mean, we would like them to, but it may not happen. But we've seen an increase in the introductory elective course in cybersecurity after this effort. And I think that is in itself a good result of this process. And then finally, I think one of the benefits is it gets faculty members outside the core discipline of cybersecurity to actually be interested and willing and actually be teaching this topic, which for a lot of us resource constrained faculty helps offload our job of actually teaching this in other places. I'm pretty much done here, Casey, at this point. I think we have like 7 minutes. I'd like to open it up for any comments.
Yeah, we have some. So first off, great presentation. I love the interactivity and the pausing for questions, and also just great questions. And there is a number. Some are just suggestions. G. Williams, nursing could easily be used in a law office practice and procedures class for law office assistant certificate degree. Mark Hufey says a course about e-discovery managed by the legal studies program that is also used in a digital forensics concentration would count absolutely. Aristophanes had a question. I'm not sure. What is the optimal course load to have a good programming, assuming they relieve you of your publication or research obligations? Not sure what you mean there. Additional resources Stephen Miller posted. Are there other comments, questions? I was gonna, if you saw me, I was gonna pull up there's a polling option in Zoom, and I'm on a laptop, but normally have dual monitors, and I was gonna actually ask some questions, and I realized, I have one monitor. So if you saw the screen change for a minute, that's what happened. So People enjoyed the presentation. So Aristophanes, how could you handle teaching cyber program in another discipline without killing yourself?
Okay, so that's a very good question, Aristophanes. Thank you. First of all, from the very beginning, I am not teaching cybersecurity in another program. That's the whole idea, is to have the faculty members teaching these disciplines actually teach as much cybersecurity as they can. And so, but by definition, a criminal justice person, let's just take it here. I won't be too long. I know we have a few minutes. The person who teaches criminal justice is a former police officer. Obviously, he teaches criminal justice because that fits his background. So when I tell him about spear phishing and social engineering and things like that, these are very new topics for him to teach in a criminal law class, right? So based on his comfort level and what he's willing to teach is all I'm able to achieve in the criminal law class, even though theoretically there's like 20 different things that could be taught in the criminal justice program. So yes, there are capacity limits to how cybersecurity could be taught across disciplines. And the goal is to try to embed the content in classes and have the existing faculty teach. And so this takes a little bit of time and effort to make it actually happen. And there are limits to how much this can be done. Okay.
Great answer. How do you do you have any language, or what's, the value, the elevator speech or the executive version of the value prop, right? Because I'm at for other faculty, right? Because,
Right. So again, I have this regular annual May workshop where I cast a wide net and I get interested faculty to show up for 4 hours or 8 hours. For us, it's 8 hours, and we talk about the latest trends of the year. So believe it or not, this year it's about blockchain, and last year it was cryptocurrency. And there's a major theme, and then there are minor themes. And this gets people interested about the field of cybersecurity for one day. And then what I do is I follow up with specific content-specific topics. But if you don't have the interest level in the first place, it's very hard to follow up.
Excellent. So some sort of back to school day, professional development day, some sort of
PD day, a PD day at the end of the school year, which is when I do it, is very helpful to prep me for the next semester. Now, there's a reason why I do it in May, is because I follow up with the faculty in the summer. So let's just say a lot of this is not just show up and teach cybersecurity. There's a lot of prep work. So in the workshop, in the PD day in the May, I get the interest. So let's just say somebody in accounting is interested in teaching internal cost controls. That summer is a time when I work with a faculty member to actually help create the course. And then in the fall, when they are preparing the syllabus in August, they embed the content in a certain week, and then I show up for that week. So it's a calculated way of going from a workshop to a classroom.
That's great. And I see Char says, why not invite the other disciplines to teach in the cyber program? These students would learn absolutely. Sure. That's what Mark Hufey said, right? Get the law folks to talk about e-discovery in a cybersecurity program. Great suggestion.
I mean, this is a two-way street for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think S.H. White, very challenging to get buy-in from other programs that have limited contact time and space. How do I sell this approach? Yeah, it is going to be a challenge, right?
So I went into that quite a bit into my thing. The simple answer, and we have like less than a minute, is that plan on this for about a couple of years. This is not something that you can turn around in one semester. You do need at least 1 or 2 academic years for this to actually gel.
Great. Well, and I want to follow up again. This recording will be made available to everybody that registered. You'll get a follow-up email with a link once it's posted on our YouTube great presentation. There's a quick call to action, which is if any of you all have curricular resources that you would like to embed in other disciplines / courses, and you want to share those far and wide, please contact me, C. O'Brien, COBRIEN, at nationalcyberwatch.org, and we can do so through our e-newsletter, which goes out the first and third Friday of each month, goes to about 6,000 people, and our wraparound social media, as well as our annual conference. So great presentation. Thank you very much to our presenter and all the participants. And be sure to check your inboxes for not only a link to the recording, but for future webcasts. So take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your morning / afternoon.